This is New Rural Virginia, reclaiming rural leadership through conversation featuring real voices, real issues from the heart of the Commonwealth. Y'all, thank you for being here with us for another episode of New Rural Virginia podcast. I'm Parson Brown.
And I'm Larry Wohlers. And Parson, we are recording this on the morning of September 11th, which is a very somber moment.
Yeah, Larry, one of the most violent days that will be forever etched in all of our minds.
Last night we had the assassination of Charlie Kirk.
Another terrible act of violence that we totally condemn.
And we have with us today for this conversation Forrest Miller, the candidate in House District 63, someone who is himself a combat veteran, served combat tours in Afghanistan and Iraq, and knows a lot about putting himself in harm's way. Forrest, welcome to the show. Seeing this kind of violence happening not overseas, but right here on American soil is truly sad and troubling.
Yeah. Thanks, Larry Parsons, for setting this up and having me. Just to kick things off, like you said, there's just no room, no place in America for political violence. And we'll get into this later because it's one of my campaign messages is government is meant to be a conversation of ideas. And that's what makes us unique here in this country is we can do that. And we should be able to do that openly and through that discourse and through that agreement, come up with, common sense solutions. So really, there is no place for violence. If we keep going down this path, we'll lose the ability to have these conversations.
Thank you, Forrest, and thank you for saying that and for joining us today.
Yeah, absolutely. And can I just say I'm old enough to remember a period in the late 1960s when we went through a period of angry rhetoric and political violence with Martin Luther King's assassination, RFK's assassination, and then George Wallace's attempted assassination. It was on all sides just a terrible moment. But we got through it, and we got through it in part because our political leaders on both sides were absolutely clear that this was not in any way a partisan issue, that we had to condemn violence wherever it came from, wherever it was aimed. It's really important that we make it clear that indeed this is not a partisan issue.
Yeah, exactly. And in my time in the military, I see it through a unique lens. Is this violence internal in the country? I mean, it's countrymen against countrymen. And it breaks my heart, honestly, that we're against each other. And we should, it's one team, one fight. That's all we always said in the military. And I believe that is another of the many reasons why I'm running for office is to bring that leadership to the table that creates that culture. And hopefully I can make a difference when it comes to this kind of events that are happening in our country.
Yeah, it's it's at this point, I believe it's more than reaching across the aisle. It's breaking the algorithm and emancipating ourselves from echo chambers.
Yeah.
So anyway, thank you again, Forrest. And so moving on, like so many of the candidates that we've talked to in the conversations we've had with these incredible service-driven people, you have had an incredible background of service yourself. 20 years in the Army, including 2 different combat tours with the 82nd Airborne, one in Afghanistan, one in Iraq, and then a second career with the White House Communication Agency. And for our listeners, those are the guys who make sure that wherever the president, anywhere in the world at any moment, he has a completely secure and reliable communications team backing him up. And that's a huge responsibility. Communication.
Yeah.
So important. I think cannot emphasize that enough. So, a lot about service and a lot about tech. So what about all this culminated in you deciding to become a candidate?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thanks for that question. I've been asked a lot on the campaign trail so far, this same question, and it wasn't until February until we decided to get involved. There was numerous reasons, but I think it all boils down to I was just having withdrawals from public service, being able to help people get out there with good ideas and really have that meaningful result in somebody else's life. I've been retired for 4 years now, and I'm just working away as a network engineer. And just to be able to have that influence in folks' life, I think is key. And a lot of leadership philosophy that I still have that I hope to bring to the table once elected is there's little things that stick with you and make you the leader you are. Like I believe that we all experience one of two pains every day. It's either discipline or regret. The trend we are politically and lack of like common sense approach to problem solving in our government right now is I don't want to have that regret later, knowing now I could have stepped forward and done something about it. So I choose discipline now. I wake up, I knock doors, I get out there, I canvas launch with the team, and then just, I mean, every day something. That's what the message is through the team is put something on the calendar every day to move forward.
It's like what we say around here all the time. You got to show up.
It's exactly what we keep saying on the team. Show up. If we don't have the money, time versus money. So use your time wisely.
Time and money. Yeah, yes, sir.
Yep.
Absolutely. So you have a really interesting district, one with almost, I would say, two faces. In the east, you have that phenomenal population growth around Fredericksburg with a projected increase of 1 million people by 2050, and that has its own set of problems. And then in the west, you have that very rural, very old kind of Virginia, including all the battlefields. So what are you hearing as you knock on doors? Is there a set of common concerns and hopes, or are you really
Yeah.
just two different districts?
It almost is. And I've kind of mentally referred to it as the balance that needs to be struck. So just like you said, Larry, areas surrounding Fredericksburg are going to increase by 1 million people by the year 2050. So the growth around I-95, which the eastern side of District 63 touches right up against Fredericksburg, we have to start planning for that infrastructure-wise right now, um,
Right.
and balancing the growth over there with the ag, rural communities out here in the western side of the district, as well as the Civil War battlefields that have to be preserved. That is a big thing. So I refer to it as the balance. So the conversation does change where you have it in the district. So folks over here on the west, the rural side, they want to keep it that way. And I believe that is possible. We just have to be creative right now in given this time and the issues that we're seeing. And I think that can be strong. So those conversations go to, we don't want to see solar panel fields taking over the rural
Right.
land out here, and the single family home urban sprawl, the suburbs
Mhm.
are just coming. They're on a westward march through the district from Fredericksburg. So I think
Hmm.
there's ways we can get about solving those problems. I'm in favor of higher density dwelling units, more affordable housing towards the Fredericksburg area that will slow down that single family home sprawl. And then for the solar panel conversation, why don't we put them over parking lots? So let's have conversations with the third party energy providers to see if we can have a sit down with Dominion Energy, have a sit down with them and see if we can come to an agreement to get renewable energy projects going, but also everybody gets what they need in a conversation at the table.
Yeah, we've heard a lot of concerns about farming and agriculture in our rural districts, and there is the composition of whether to use pristine farmlands for solar is a big conversation that's come up in past
Yeah.
episodes. Let's drill down a little bit on affordable housing because it sounds like have a very serious problem, but one that's almost certainly going to get worse.
Yes.
Whatever local county governments want to do, people are not going to stop the westward
Right.
move. So what are some solutions?
So right now, I think inventory is key. That's what's keeping the cost so high. Folks can't move up that ladder to get into that next place that they need to expand their family or that first place they're looking to get
Mhm.
out on their own from their parents.
Sure.
that kind of stuff. So it's to increase inventory is the primary goal. And doing that by incentivizing higher density dwelling units, which are more energy efficient, and bringing that'll help bring that cost down. A lot of there's another trend that we're seeing right now, a recent trend, given the flux in the economy right now. It's for those landlords and those higher density, the ones we do have now, the apartment complexes. You know how you have to provide your annual income to get into those places as kind of a
Right.
guarantee? That
Yeah.
is exponentially increasing. Folks are not getting approved right now unless they really double, if not triple, the number that they would normally their annual salary right now. And I think it's the flux in the economy. The landlords and the organizations that manage it are just risk adverse right now.
Right.
They're not wanting folks to come in until they have a more solid feeling about the tenants. And we got to get to the bottom of that. That's just another trend recently that we're seeing in the conversations we're having out there.
And
Hmm.
that seems like that could just becomes an endless cycle
It
sometimes
does.
because you can't one before the chicken egg sort of situation.
Yeah. And something my view of government's role in this is to create that framework of success, that ladder. So government
Yep.
should be
Yeah.
creating the rungs that people can take steps on. So it's up to them to take the step, but the government is there to say, to create that framework, that ladder
Right.
for
To
everybody.
make sure the ladder's actually there
Yes.
to climb up. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, that's a great way to look at it.
Yeah, I can appreciate that.
So your district is ground zero for data center growth, and on the one hand, for your counties, that's pretty tempting because they bring in a lot of property tax income. But it is also means a huge demand for energy and energy that we don't necessarily have yet. And that's going to cost a lot of money to bring in. And of course, then there's water. So everybody's talking about data centers, but you're somebody who actually knows something about them. You've visited them, and you can really give us an informed and I think objective perspective on how we can manage this so that it's good for people and not just for companies.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a issue that hopefully I can bring a lot of experience to in Richmond. Is I was a Signal Corps enlisted soldier, NCO, and then I was a warrant officer, so Signal Corps network engineer all my time in the Army, which
Uh-huh.
I still do a network engineer on the outside too. So the data center conversation I'm very fluent in, thankfully. So something I believe that hits home is staggering. 70% of the world's internet traffic runs through Northern Virginia.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And keeping that in mind, I believe that is due to our fiber line infrastructure that we have here in the Commonwealth, which the backbone of the internet, a lot of the major links go through I-81, I-95, and the transatlantic fiber lines come on shore in the Hampton Roads area. So we do have cross links across the Commonwealth that link all those major backbones together. So the data center developers, they want to be here. And I think it's time we switch how we think about this conversation and look at that infrastructure as a resource, the same as
Hmm.
coal or natural gas in the ground, and start using that as leverage in the conversations that we have a much larger seat at the table in the data center conversations than I think we know we have. So being able to say that, I'm going to request to be on the technology committee once elected to
Okay.
have these conversations. So I believe there's ways to do this. I've seen green data centers, very energy efficient, to have that power, that water conversation. I'm for gray water reuse networks, so that water doesn't come out of the drinking water supply for the communities to cool that equipment. Also, a big fan of taking your time when you're building them. Make sure the site selection is correct. There's a conversation down in or a situation down in North Carolina. Data centers were built too close to a single family home community, and they can hear the cooling fans inside their house.
Wow, that's not right.
I'm in favor of legislation that adds that decibel study, or there are technologies out there, more silent fan cooling technologies that are out there that we have to just make sure as the role of government in this to guide that process and make sure developers are doing it responsibly, and making sure that the power that they do use, that the people in the communities are not paying for that, for the infrastructure
Right.
that is needed to set it up. So the high power transmission lines and stuff. So we got to get
Hmm.
we really need this election in November, we need creative leaders to take a look at that in depth and bring options to the table that don't affect people's pocketbooks. So the top two things Virginians are concerned with right now are cost of living and protection of civil liberties. That cost of living, we have to
It's huge.
keeping money in folks' pockets.
There's also a lot of people that are concerned about SMRs and the proposed construction of SMRs in Southwest Virginia. How do you feel about that? Is there any way that we can protect our areas down there and still have a productive relationship with data centers?
And let me just jump in and say SMRs are small modular
Yeah,
reactors.
thank you, Larry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is something I talked about in a virtual town hall on data centers last week as well. Is it's important to keep in mind the framework, which Virginia, awesome job passing the Virginia Clean Economy Act that states by the year 2050, 100% of the energy has to come from carbon-free sources. So I always say it's a good goal, and a goal without a target on the wall is just a wish. So it's a very good target on the wall. So keeping that as the framework, I believe that act has been passed. I believe it should be a living document, a working document that we adjust every year and keep taking a look at. So like new technologies come out, like the SMRs, we have to take a look if that's the direction we want to go at long term, and
Right.
look at a long term impact. So maybe a task force that takes a look at that, a committee that takes a look at that. It does, the reading I've done on it, it looks promising, but every new technology briefs well up front. So I think we just need to have a sit down and look at long term impacts.
I like the idea of continually upgrading the way that we look
Yeah,
at things and think about things.
and technology is moving so fast.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Government has to move with it.
I was struck when you said that the data center companies really want to be in Northern Virginia, and that's leverage for us. But rather than having each county negotiate separately without having the kind of knowledge and leverage to get that good deal, having a well-informed, thoughtful state legislature
Mhm.
creating that framework will
Yeah.
mean that we will all get a better deal in that discussion with the data centers. Is that fair?
That is true. And I want to make sure I say this as well, is I can see the localities, the board of supervisors, the city councils that are out there. This is very enticing to them. The revenue
Sure.
is off the charts compared
Right.
to what they've been using for years. So I see that, and I agree with taking a look at it. And I believe we're in a fight of misinformation to the public right now to really show you what a data center truly is. So there's a lot of upfront revenue that hits your community with the build, but long term, each data center is around 46-figure salaries that it takes to run it. So you're getting that expendable income put into your communities as well, which helps your schools, your infrastructure, stuff like that. So it's not something to be scared of if you just take a minute and educate yourself on it. It's not a bad deal. It's not a bad deal. It just has to be done responsibly. And that's the role of government in this conversation. Like you said, Larry, is
Right.
to in Richmond, we need to make sure we bring expertise to the table to have these more fluent conversations to where we're talking the same language. Because if you sit down at a table,
Right.
data center developer, I mean, some of it seems pretty high level, but you have to be able to speak their language.
Yeah, and I'll just
And
punctuate with that. Everyone is talking about data centers, and I'm grateful for folks like you that are educated in this subject. Not
Yeah,
everybody is as educated about them as they claim, and because it's complicated.
right.
yeah,
And just to add in that, I live in a rural county where folks are very worried about being forced to accept a lot of high power electricity lines being run across our county in order to provide power to those data centers and saying, hey, wait a minute, who's talking to us about this? How are our
Mhm.
views being incorporated in this?
yep. And that has been a concern for not just Virginia, for other states as well that are going through these same challenges. And the eminent domain conversation. that starts up when it comes to those high power transmission lines. That they can just folks can take land because they need it. The developers, we have to have that conversation too. That has to be a topic at the table because that just affects the landscape. That goes to a lot of the conversations I have on the west side of the district is they want to keep rural, and that's what they mean by that. So that's definitely
Exactly.
Healthcare is very much on people's minds. It's been a conversation on every episode, every candidate we've talked to. For voters in your rural parts, like they can already have a long drive just to see a doctor, and that's
yeah,
likely to get worse. And other communities as well. And just seeing announcement of medical facility
yeah.
closures in Shenandoah Valley tied directly to Republican cuts. Should the state legislature be preparing for that? And is there a different is there a difference in approach on healthcare between you and your opponent?
I would say yes. I would say yes. And this probably goes into probably the rest of the conversation we're about to have is yes. So the whatever we're calling it, the big bill that came out of DC really cuts into the Medicare or Medicaid subsidies that are out there. So right now it's projected that 6 rural hospitals will close their doors due to that lack of funding across the Commonwealth. And I think Augusta Health just announced that they're closing 3 clinics as well. This is not something that's happening down the road. It's happening right now. And those are rural clinics that were needed out there. And I think that's something Senator Kane mentioned on it on the last um, podcast that you guys did. So that is something that we have to start looking at to come up with creative solutions. Having that private equity conversation, the folks that go in and buy these hospitals and turn
Yeah.
a profit, I think has to be looked at, not only at the Commonwealth state level, but the national level. So having that conversation with our leadership to see what they're doing about it so we can align our efforts, I think is key there because we all need that healthcare that's out there. Um, Something else that's occurring right now that's a recent trend, just due to the flux in the healthcare, is folks that are getting their healthcare plans through their employer. Their employers are already right now seeing a 6% increase on the premiums from the insurance companies. So it's only just
Yeah.
a matter of time before those are passed along in that next yearly update to the employees. So that's a trend that is alarming.
Hmm.
Also,
Oh,
if you get your healthcare, if your employer doesn't have a plan and you get it through one of the marketplaces right now, that is seeing an 18% increase. And folks are really going to start seeing that. Folks don't have the
That's
budget
right.
for that. And this
Nope.
is moving so fast that we have to have these conversations immediately and get ahead of this. Um, and I believe that's some of the stuff that's happening out there due to the decisions that are being made coming out of DC. And we have to be aware of this at the state level and see if we can push back and come up with creative solutions to see if we can help this out. I think Winsome Earl Sears was asked this question the other day, and she said maybe we can use the Virginia Rainy Day Fund. Well, legally, you can't. You can't use it for this purpose.
right.
And we're talking about a
Hmm.
$29 billion gap of funding. There's only $4 billion sitting in that account.
That's right.
So we have to have these fact-based, educated conversations to say, problem solve. Let's go. Let's all sit here until we figure something out.
Yeah,
Um,
no, those are very good points. I don't know if all of our voters are aware of that. Not enough people, perhaps some, are aware how much this crisis is looming over us if
it
we
is.
don't handle it properly.
And the conversation I had,
Right.
like Larry was saying, the rural side of my district, that was one of the big conversations is folks that live down towards Lake Anna,
Hmm.
they have to drive 45 minutes just to get stitches if they cut them
Yeah.
That's
from.
crazy.
So
And
we need to be going, not closing, we need to be opening. We need to provide solutions for folks that are down there. If that's a mobile unit, something like that. I mean, so I think this problem is very, very complex, and it's going to take a lot of creative solutions to get after it.
right. Right. You're very open that you used to be a moderate Republican, but
Yes.
now you're running as a Democrat, and you
Yes.
said part of your reasoning is that you want to be both a problem solver, and you want to return government to the people in the sense of making it conversation with the people.
Yes.
So tell us a little more about how you came to that conclusion that you could have that conversation better as a Democrat than as a Republican.
So it's been a journey, and we could probably spend the rest of the day and week really getting into all of it. But I think what it boils down to, Larry, is I believe we the people means all the people fundamentally,
Hmm.
and I use that as a cornerstone in my decision making. So, given the trends that have been occurring for years now in the Republican Party, there's a lot of things that are being done, decisions being made, legislation being passed that doesn't have all the people in mind. So, I think, and a lot of times they can't step out of line and vote for the people because it's if you step out of line right now, you're exiled out of the party,
Right.
and that's not government. That's not a healthy stance in any government, especially a democracy that we say we value. So I believe as a moderate Democrat, I can have those conversations still. I'm not going to 100% agree on a lot of the Democrat efforts that are underway right now, but I believe I can still have that conversation with everybody on the side to say, well, have you seen this fact? Have you seen this example? We can still debate and have that conversation and then reach across the aisle and compromise whenever possible, whenever possible. But I just believe government is a conversation. It's meant to be a contract
Right.
between itself and the people to provide services and that framework for success. So I believe that can only be done right now at me as a moderate Democrat.
Yeah. Well, so when we talk about culture wars, and I do talk about
Yeah.
culture wars, a lot of us think about just words and being PC, but we've got embattled libraries and conversations, and more so now it's been a recent headline about well, it's how it has an impact on our personal health. In Florida, for example, the Surgeon General is going to eliminate all vaccination requirements for school children, even for polio and smallpox. We're seeing these draconian laws on reproductive health in red states. Is that a problem for your voters?
So every time I end up getting into a conversation about any of the topics that you just mentioned, Parson, I have to go back to what is the role of government in this conversation? Let's frame that first. I usually come out with a question. If folks want to talk about some of the cultural war issues, I say, what do you need? What do you need in your life? What are the concerns that you're having today? Is it
Okay.
cost of living? Is it high bills? Is it grocery prices? Is it that kind of stuff? So, and then that changes the entire conversation. Folks need to start paying attention to things that the problems we actually need to solve, like up front. We got to get after some of these things that are eroding, the ability for folks to conduct their daily lives, that kind of stuff. So being able to frame it is what is the role of government for you right now? And then the cultural war stuff, I mean, I'm going to go back to my military background on this, is to empower adults, decision makers at all levels to handle decisions. I mean, a lot of this stuff doesn't need federal and state level legislation to get after some of this stuff. So, I mean, if it's the case of a teacher making a decision in a classroom, empower the teacher to do so. I mean, he's already getting after teaching our young ones, and that's a very, very tough job. Is getting up in front of some of these children every single day, but
100%. That would terrify me.
it's tough. I was an instructor in the military. It's very tough.
My
Every,
mom is a
Yeah.
teacher. I could never, they would
yeah,
kick my butt.
yeah, but just empowering some of that cultural war stuff is not for the government, and it should
Right.
be handled by lower level decision makers and critical thinkers. Just empowering them to handle some of this stuff because we're all not going to agree on a lot of this, and
Sure.
that's why you can't pass legislation to it, and that's why it needs to just be handled out and about in society.
So you'd say maybe more of a distraction tactic. That's what we've
It's
heard in the past.
so I would say it is a way to generate motivation through emotion.
Hmm.
Well
And
articulated.
Yes.
that's what's happening. It's and it gets people kind of riled up and
Yeah.
and they lose sight of what actually matters in their lives.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Although I will say again, if you have a lot of kids coming into your schools who are not vaccinated, I've been places You have too probably where polio was a real thing. And it's tragic to see that.
Yeah.
And to imagine that we could have states where they won't require polio vaccinations anymore. That's where your cultural war actually begins to affect each of our lives and our health.
On that vaccination topic, Larry, is vaccinations truly work while we don't have polio? The number is 85%. Per
Right.
community, you got to keep it above 85%, or you'll start losing the effectiveness of the vaccination to
Hmm.
keep that virus or at bay. So if we start falling below that number, you're going to start seeing cases like in Texas with the measles right now. Um, Also, conversation at a door I was knocking this past weekend was a teacher, and we got into the conversation about Florida and the situation of them not requiring vaccinations. And she brought up a very, very good point. She says, if they go through with this, what happens when a child in Florida moves
Yes.
into another state that requires? So, do they have to catch up on the vaccinations? I mean, that's not how we should be doing things. That's why some guidance at
Right.
the federal level is so imperative that we keep. And we're not hearing that out of the HHS right now.
It's
And
like
we should be.
a
Right.
logistical nightmare if it gets out of control and isn't
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
managed.
I have two children in public school right now. And it's unthinkable.
Right.
And then
Right.
a lot of the conversation folks say that are the anti-vaccination crowd, they say, well, what is all this stuff that is on the sheet in this vaccination? I don't even know what these things are. There's a reason you don't know what they are.
That's right.
Vaccinations have worked for decades.
That's right. Yes. And
I
I
think
have
they
the
call
same
it
thing.
science.
It could science.
We've been saying that this state election may be the most consequential for Virginians in a generation. And this is one of the reasons, because if your federal government is no longer ensuring that everybody is vaccinated, then it's up to each state to make it happen.
Correct.
And if you elect people to your state legislature who also are not prepared to protect your children,
Yes.
then there is no one else to do the protecting.
Yeah. And this is not a partisan issue at all.
No,
No,
shouldn't
no.
be.
So I don't know if you've seen what Oregon, Washington, California, they've formed an agreement to where they're all going to make sure vaccines are mandatory in their schools. Hawaii just joined their a little alliance, and I think personally, the way I see that, it's good but not good at the same time. That the states have to do this. It's not the way it should be. But if this is the road we're going down, what we can do at the state legislature level, at the General Assembly, is pass our own,
That's right.
join our own alliance if need be, to make
Yes,
sure we keep public health in mind.
Which is why we
yes,
need to have a strong, smart, responsible, thoughtful state legislature.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
right. As I said, this is why this is such a consequential election.
Yes,
Uh,
absolutely.
okay, well, this has been a great conversation.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. And again, you know, kind of a really rough moment um, in the nation right now, and a lot of emotions and
Yeah.
a lot of conversations about where we are and where we wish we were.
Yeah, I would kind of recommend patience as we go through this process. Is everybody just, cool off
Take a
and,
beat.
and take a minute.
Yeah.
Yes, as I say, being old enough to remember times like this in the past, we can get through this.
Yeah. Yeah, we've made it here 250 years. It's just it'll I think it rests on all our shoulders now
Hmm.
to be
Yeah.
able to get through it.
Right. And to have people like you with such a great dedication to public service running for office, that makes me feel much more confident about the future. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank
Thank you
you.
very much. We wish you luck, and we will follow up with you and be watching your campaign.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Larry. Thanks, Parson.
Okay. Oh, and we should just say, how can people find you?
Oh, perfect. Website, Forrest Miller, the number 4va.com. and we're on all the social media platforms that are out there at Forrest Miller, number 4 VA. Follow the campaign. I'm posting daily. We got a team going, and it's been a lot of fun, big learning experience on my part, getting out there and dusting off the old leadership mantra that I had back in the military. I've learned that you can't knife hand people like I used to, the soldiers in the military. It's more of a let's all be friends. Yes.
It seems like you're doing a great job. Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay. Forrest Miller, candidate in House District 63. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If this conversation resonated with you, check out our previous candidate spotlight episodes and take a moment to like, share, and follow New Rural Virginia Podcast on your favorite platforms. Just search New Rural Virginia Podcast. New Rural Virginia Candidate Spotlight is a production of New Rural Virginia. Visit newruralva.org for more. Produced and co-hosted by Larry Wohlers and yours truly, Parson Brown. Thanks for listening. Stay tuned for the next episode.